This trimester is probably the hardest one yet. Hi friends, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. My name is Marielle. I'm a corporate working mom with a master's degree in psychology. I have a 2-year-old and baby number 2 on the way. And here I talk about all things motherhood, parenting, relationships, work-life balance, productivity. So stick around if you want to see more of that. So I'm at the very end of my pregnancy. I'm turning 39 weeks tomorrow as I'm filming this. So I have no clue when baby's gonna be here. She might come any day, literally now. And we actually had our first daughter a day before 38 weeks. So now with my second, I'm actually farther along than I ever came last time. So this is like a milestone for me, honestly. So it's really nice to have a little bit of extra time because we actually really tried to plan everything in advance, looking at it with the lens of what if she comes early, because that's what happened with my first daughter. So now we're just taking our time, doing more extra things that we can still find. There's always something that you can find. And you're never running out of things to do, really. But for the most part, like the most critical things that need to be prepared, we're already prepared. We're ready. We're like at a good point so that we know that if baby girl comes today, tomorrow, next week, that we're all good. And I gotta say that as much as I'm not looking forward to labor because I'm a little bit scared, to be honest, I am, for one, looking forward to meeting baby number 2, but also looking forward to not being pregnant anymore because this is challenging. I stand by what I said, that the second trimester is the easiest, for sure. But before I was thinking, I'm not sure if the first trimester is more difficult or the third trimester is more difficult, but now I know for sure that the third trimester is definitely more difficult. And so the third trimester for me, personally, is the most difficult of all the trimesters. Keep in mind though that I wasn't very sick in my first trimester for both my pregnancies. I never really had any nausea or vomiting or anything like that. So for women who do experience that, I can imagine that it's much more difficult. And I'm very, very grateful, and I'm lucky that I didn't have to go through that, obviously, which made definitely my first trimester so much more bearable and much easier. The third trimester though, yeah. But anyway, I'll get into the details soon. Like I did with my first and my second trimester updates, I'm going to go through it week by week as much as I can. And then I'm also going to go through all of the tips that I've collected for you over this trimester to make your life much easier, hopefully. And lastly, I'm also going to share my thoughts and feelings about this trimester. So now let's get into the week by week updates. Starting with 27 weeks, I wrote in my notes that from week 27, I can't bend normally anymore. I need to bend like sideways, or I need to squat to get something from below. So it's already from the beginning of the third trimester that I have to do that. I wrote here that in the beginning of this trimester, the third trimester, I've been sleeping better, which is great. And so I've also dropped napping for some time in the beginning because I didn't feel like I had to nap at that point because I felt okay, I felt good, I had enough energy. I was able to sleep through the night, and I needed to use the toilet like only once at this point. So that's really good. My body clock seems to be working super well. I've been sleeping at the same time and getting up at the same time every single day. So without even an alarm needed, I just fall asleep and wake up at around the same time every day, which is great. We've also been opening the window at night so that the light can come in the morning, which really helps. And on week 28, my line in the belly, like the linea negra, I think it's called, that started showing. However, at around this period, I've also been having bloody nose. Whenever I would blow my nose, it would be a little bit bloody, which I didn't really have in my first pregnancy, but somehow I have it in this pregnancy. I also had to put more effort into breathing because it felt like there's just something here, which is normal because my uterus obviously expanded from before, and baby is like much bigger, so it's taking up more room, so it's a little bit more difficult to breathe at that point. At this point, I was also waddling at some point. Like there's a bowling ball between my legs sometimes. Not all the time, but there were periods when I had that. At around 29 weeks, I was starting to have round ligament pain. And this could be really painful. Sometimes it's really like something like stretching the inside of your belly. And it's really, really uncomfortable. And I'm so happy that I haven't had that as much. I said that I had it around 29 weeks, but I haven't had it overall. Like looking back at it now, looking at this trimester now, I haven't had it really that much overall. It's really just like a handful of times when I've had it. And I'm really grateful for that. I noted that my belly has been getting itchier. It was starting to get annoying at this point, like waking up in the middle of the night because my belly was itching. When getting up in the morning, my bones were starting to make noise. So my bones were starting to pop and crackle in the morning like popcorn. And that was a weird experience because I don't remember having that with my first, to be honest, but I have it this time around. I asked the doctor about what it was, and she said it was completely normal because of the hormones, I think relaxin, the hormone relaxin or something like that when you're pregnant, that it makes your joints go like a little bit too flexible, like more flexible than usual. So then they go like shift much more easily. And so that's something that happens towards the end of pregnancy. I didn't indicate anything for 30 weeks, but for week 31, I wrote that I've been feeling like rotisserie chicken because I've been having to rotate from one side to the other. Because ideally you need to sleep on your left side, but I can't sleep for only in one side for so long, so I need to like turn to the right side and then back to the left after some point, turn to the right, but it wasn't that bad yet at this point. However, at this point, when I started getting up from sitting or from lying down, is when I can't walk properly at first. Like when I first stand up from sitting or from lying down, I have to like get my bearings first, pop and crackle, and then waddle a little bit, and then after maybe a minute, then I start walking like normal again. 32 weeks, I'm feeling more uncomfortable, just in general. Again, I mentioned here getting up and sitting down is getting a little bit more tedious for me. Rolling from the right side to go to the left side sometimes hurts. I still don't know completely why, because the other way around never hurts. And sometimes I have to like physically get my hand and put it under my belly and then help myself roll to the left side from my right, because otherwise if I just like roll like normal, it hurts. It's like there's like some kind of vein or muscle or something that gets stuck, or I don't know what, and it really hurts to move without any assistance. So now I really need to put my hand there and assist my belly to go to the other side, but it's not all the time. There are just times when I need that, but I honestly still can't tell you what that is. 32 weeks is also when I started to wear my pregnancy belt again. I remember in my first pregnancy that I started wearing my pregnancy belt already when I was 7 months. So in my second trimester, I was already starting to wear it because I felt like my belly was heavy. But this time around, I actually didn't feel that until 32 weeks, so until my third trimester, that sometimes I had to wear my pregnancy belt, because my belly felt like it needed more support. So it was much later this time around, which is good. And I really am curious why that is, because you would think that in the first time, your abs and your muscles and all that will be working much more efficiently, but maybe it's because I'm more used to carrying my toddler and things like that, I don't know. But yeah. I also noted here in this week that the baby kicks are getting stronger. And then from week 33, I started having Braxton Hicks, which is very nice. If you've ever experienced it, you know. If you know, you know. I've also been experiencing lightning crotch the past few weeks at this point, which is also really great. Another amazing part of the third trimester. I also wrote here that I'm feeling heavier and it feels like the weight has shifted lower, like she was sitting so high on my belly before, and then at this point it felt like she dropped a little bit lower, which makes it so that it was a little bit easier to breathe for me, and I didn't have any heartburn for this trimester. Actually, I had it in my first trimester but not in the third. And I'm also able to eat more comfortably, like I didn't feel so full so easily anymore. But I did need to go pee more often because it felt like she was literally like right on my bladder. 34 weeks, I noticed that my bones have been popping and cracking again still, and shifting into place, especially when I get up in the morning or when I get up to pee at night. On one day on this particular week, I had really bad Braxton Hicks all morning, which freaked me out a little bit. So I tried to take it a little bit easier, and I also wore my pregnancy belt, which helped a little bit, but it was still there and it just passed after some time. 35 weeks is when I noticed that it's been getting more difficult for me to wake up early in the morning. I've been starting to sleep later, sleep in more, and wake up later. And this is also when I noticed that I'm feeling sleepy during the day and sometimes falling asleep during the day, probably because my sleep has been disrupted one way or another. On week 36, I've definitely noticed that my sleep has been interrupted one way or another, getting more uncomfortable sleeping. I've been having congested nose as well, which is very strange because I didn't have it during the day, but I only had it at night. So sometimes it was really difficult to breathe at night, and usually it's just one nostril that's clogged, but sometimes it's like one and a half is clogged, and it's really like an issue to try to breathe, which is really annoying when you're trying to sleep at night. And baby is sometimes very active at certain moments at night that sometimes it wakes me up and then it's difficult to fall back asleep again. At week 36 is also when I've been waking up every hour or two, just from something or another. 37 weeks, still having difficulty sleeping, most especially mainly due to my congested nose. But my belly also is feeling heavier at this point, and it's more difficult to roll from one side to the other, and I really need the hand support trick that I mentioned earlier for sure, because the belly has been much bigger at this point already. So pretty much any position at night gets uncomfortable after a certain amount of time for some reason, and it's difficult to find like a good position to sleep in that I can sleep in for a long time. I noted here that I started having back pain, probably because I've been walking a little bit differently, because I'm feeling uncomfortable and I'm trying to accommodate. Week 38 is very similar. Been waking up so many times at night, easily waking up 3, 4, 5 times sometimes at night just to pee or just to change positions, or because of my congested nose, just all the symptoms all at once, a cocktail of symptoms, or baby doing backflips. I also noted here that I've been regularly getting Braxton Hicks and occasionally getting lightning crotch as well. So since I'm now at the end of my 38 weeks and I'm 39 weeks tomorrow, I can't really say anything past that. I decided to film this update now until 38 weeks to give it myself a cutoff, because I'm really not sure when baby's gonna come, and I don't want to be stressed about needing to film this still while baby's already there, you know? So I just gave myself a cutoff. I'm gonna give the update until 38 weeks. And yeah, if I still continue being pregnant for 39 weeks, 40 weeks, then that won't unfortunately be included in this video, although I feel like it's not gonna be that much more different from how it is now. So now let's get into some third trimester tips. I literally have more than 10 tips on here for you. I've collected so many, so I'm so excited to share them. And the first one is to buy a belly band, a pregnancy belt, if you don't have one yet. It's so great for support, and I mainly wear it when I know that I'm going to be walking for a long period of time, or standing for a long period of time. I also wear it occasionally when I work out, but just generally when I feel like my belly needs more support than usual. Next is to keep up with your light exercise. So nothing too aggressive anymore at this period, but for sure, make sure that you're exercising and moving your body still very regularly as much as you can. So I try to work out still around 3 times a week now in this trimester. And in those times when I'm not working out, I still try to get some steps in or just do some chores or something like that to make myself more active. I find that in this trimester, alternating between resting and being active is the best for me. I notice that my body actually thrives in being active, but obviously because I'm 10 kilos heavier now, I need to sit down every once in a while and give myself a little bit of a break, because it's also not good to be on your legs for too long. But being active in general and getting up, walking, doing things, and not sitting down for such a long period of time feels much better for me than when I sit for over an hour at a time. I mentioned that my belly was itching at some point in the beginning of this trimester. It was much worse than it is now, I think, because it was really like actively getting stretched much more in the beginning, but also because I wanted a doctor and I was prescribed with a special lotion for the itching because it's been really driving me crazy to be honest. And I also got some I think it was like allergy pills that would help for the itching. So make sure that you're moisturizing your belly very much. I've been moisturizing it 2 or 3 times a day as much as possible, keeping it moisturized, and if possible also just keeping your belly just open. I've been sleeping with nothing on my belly, so I've been like tying my t-shirts up so that my belly is free. I find that the most comfortable for me, and it's most comfortable because there's no fabric touching my belly and it just feels just the best. If you don't have these already, try to find some supportive shoes that you can very easily take on and off, because the last thing that you want is to be fumbling with them, fumbling with straps and whatnot, because it's just more difficult at this point in pregnancy. Make sure that you're putting sunscreen on, especially if you're pregnant in the summer like I am, because while we're pregnant, we're more susceptible to sunspots and sun damage, and somehow like our skin is more sensitive to that at this period. Create a calming bedtime routine if you don't have one already, because you are going to need it. It will help you to get the best sleep, because at this point in pregnancy, it's so difficult to fall asleep or stay asleep, mostly stay asleep, and sleep comfortably, because it's just an uncomfortable time. It's just how it is. Last night, I had the best sleep I've had in literally weeks, and I'm so happy. I feel so normal and so energized. But the past few weeks, it's really been really difficult because of waking up so many times at night. Next is to take a nap during the day if you need it. If you're not functioning very well because of your lack of sleep, just please take a nap if you need it. Just a quick 10, 15, 20-minute nap is enough. For me, that's what I've been doing, because yeah, I'm not sleeping very well these days. So I need to have that power nap in the middle of the day to just get myself through the day. And it's been helping so much. Next is, if you can, or if it bothers you, to take off your rings before you get too swollen. Especially like me, I actually haven't removed my rings yet. I completely forgot to remove them, but now I'm trying to remove them and I can't. I know that there are a lot of hacks that you can do, like with the thread hack and stuff like that. So I can still do that. I think I'm going to have my husband help me to take them off. But yeah, like they're not going anywhere right now because my hands are just like twice the size of what they were before. So if that bothers you, make sure that you remove them before they get so swollen, before the 3rd trimester maybe. And especially if you're pregnant in the summer like me. The next is to prep as much as you can, and the earlier the better, because that's what we did this time around. And I feel like we're so much more ahead of our schedule than we were the last time, because the first time we were counting on her coming on 40 weeks, which didn't happen because she came 2 weeks early. And now we were counting on baby number 2 to come 38 weeks, just to be sure. And now she's still in there, still cozy. And now we have some extra time, which is so nice because now we feel a little bit more prepared, a little bit more at ease, knowing that the most critical stuff have been already taken care of and we're just doing some extra things here and there before she arrives. The next is to meal prep now. I'm a big meal prepper and I've always prepped meals even before I was a mom. Now is the time to really need to get into it. So what I've been doing, instead of just meal prepping like a whole bunch of meals for postpartum, is that for weeks I've been basically stockpiling meals that I'm putting in the freezer. So for, I don't know when I started it exactly, but several weeks ago I started making meals and making more meals than we need in the week. For instance, I would usually prepare 4 meals in a week. Now I made it 5 so that we have an extra one. And then all the extra meals I put in the freezer to be frozen. And then every week I do the same thing so that my stash builds up slowly. And it's much more sustainable for me to do it like that than just preparing like a whole bunch of meals and staying in the kitchen for a whole day. It's been working out really great. And I highly recommend this to anyone who's pregnant, so that by the time you're postpartum, you can just enjoy from the freezer meals that you've made beforehand. And the last is especially for my anxious overthinkers, is to expose yourself to positive pregnancy content as much as you can and avoid the negative or triggering ones. It's pretty obvious. Try to avoid those negative or triggering ones because they might make you even more anxious and make you overthink even more, and to expose your mind to more positive content so that that's more what's playing in your head. I've been battling with anxious thoughts pretty much my whole pregnancy, but especially these days because I know it's getting closer and I'm getting anxious about labor happening and when is it gonna happen and how it's gonna happen, and I hope it doesn't happen that way like what it did before and all these things. So I think just exposing your brain to more positivity will be so much more helpful than to look at those negative or triggering content. There's already enough going on in our heads without listening to all these negative things. Don't do that to yourself. And the last are my thoughts and feelings for this particular 3rd trimester. One thing that I wish I did in my first pregnancy was that I documented things more. And that's what I've been doing this pregnancy, this time around. I've been documenting like crazy for this one. If I did that with my first, it would have been so helpful now for me to look back on, to remember things, because there's a lot of things that I thought I was gonna remember this time from my first, but I really didn't. So if you're a first-time mom, make sure to document as much as you can, especially if you want to have subsequent pregnancies. It will be so helpful for you to look back on later. I noted here at the beginning of my 3rd trimester that I'm hoping that little Peanut stays longer in my belly and that she comes closer to my due date, which so far she's already doing, and I'm so grateful for that, because we've been doing some house renovations and there's just so much things that are going on here at home that we just need to prepare before she arrives. And I'm so grateful that she's giving us a little bit of extra time. And it's just been so nice to be able to have this time to prepare everything and feel a little bit more at ease. So I'm really happy that she's staying a little bit longer, and I hope she stays in a little bit longer still. And I know that it's maybe unpopular because a lot of the people who are pregnant that I know, they just want baby out already, but I'm like, please stay in. Walking in my last month of pregnancy has been a challenge. I normally love walking, and I love walking, just getting my steps in, having a nice walk, enjoying nature, just having some time to myself, some quiet time. But in my 9th month of pregnancy, this last month has been quite difficult, quite challenging, because I just feel so much weight, so much extra weight on me from the belly, from water weight and things like that. And it's been so hot as well, which is obviously not helping either. And I just feel so swollen and so heavy in general these days. So it's been quite taxing, and I sometimes have to force myself to just get out and have a walk I still do it, but I'm not doing it as long as I used to do. So before, I could easily do an hour walk and be completely fine with it and be refreshed. Now I'm just keeping it to like 30 minutes, 20 minutes walk, but I feel good to be able to still get that in at least, and still get my minimum of 5,000 steps a day. If I get to 10,000, which has not been easy anymore this last month, then it's amazing, but it's no longer my like top goal to reach. So in my first trimester video, I think I mentioned that I joined a Facebook group of pregnant women who are also due on the same time as me, and there are definitely some pros and cons. In my first trimester, I found it so nice to be able to have that group, because especially in the beginning, when you are not telling anybody yet, you're not announcing it yet, it's nice to have people who are in the same boat as you. It's nice to be able to share these things with each other and just feel like you have a little bit of support, even if not many other people know about it. However, I noticed that more recently, in the past weeks, I'm getting more anxiety from reading some of the posts on that group. So I think we need to be a little bit more mindful of the stuff that we consume, including stuff like that, especially during this point in our lives, in our pregnancy, because as I mentioned earlier, I'm an overthinker and I can get some anxious thoughts as well myself already. But hearing or reading scary stories, it makes you like a little bit anxious about yourself and your pregnancy, and what if it happens to me too? What if this? What if that? And so yeah, just try to be a bit more mindful of those things. Now that I'm aware of it, I try to limit my exposure to that group. So I just look at it much less now than I did before. And also when I see some posts that are obviously going to be negative, I just skip those. Last thought that I had is that I noticed I haven't been as consistent with my morning routine as I was before. And even as I was in my first and my second trimesters, I've not been as consistent this trimester. And I feel like it's been affecting my mental health, because I thrive in routine and doing all these positive things for myself. But because my sleep has been disrupted, I tend to sleep in a little bit more these days, which is also sometimes necessary, and that's what I'm doing for myself. I'm giving myself grace, and I'm definitely not scolding myself for waking up a little bit later these days. But I did notice that because I have less time in the morning, I need to rush a little bit more in the morning. I don't have as much time for myself. I don't have as much time to do these extra things that I would usually do in the morning in my morning routine. So yeah, it's been affecting me mentally, and I really want to get back to it, and I do still do it as much as I can still when I can, when I have the time to. But yeah, I really notice a difference when I do it. That's it for this video. I hope that this has been helpful for you, especially if you're pregnant or are also in the last trimester. If you are, let me know how it's going for you. So my plan is to make a fourth trimester video as well. So that will be my postpartum fourth trimester video, which will come much later, obviously, when little Peanut is here. It will be in a similar format as this one as well. So I'm going to try to take notes every month, every week, as much as I can, to be able to document it and to be able to share it with you and give you some tips that have been helping me as well. This is where I'll end this video, and I can't believe I'm at the final stretch of my pregnancy, and I'm so thankful that I reached almost 39 weeks at this point, and hopefully she stays a little bit longer so I have a little bit more time still. But we'll see. I thank you also for joining me on this journey so far. It's been so nice to be able to share this and to be able to document it for myself and also for you guys. And yeah, I wish you a great rest of the week, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!